Hello, guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Joe Acosta. I am a non-religious licensed minister, and if you're new and visiting for the first time, welcome. Today, we're going to talk about a little topic that you'll sometimes see posted on social media, and people will say, and it'll be like my plan, and it shows like a person trying to walk across a straight line onto a goal or a place, and then God's plan, and God's plan has all these holes and ditches and stuff to climb out of. The funny thing about that is that we talk about God has a plan for me. And most of the time we use that as words of escape. Usually when someone is going through something, I know God has a plan for me. You're going through something and you don't know how you're going to get out of it. I know God has a plan for me. They're not words of achievement. And we know this because usually when somebody passes away, you never really hear anyone go, "Hey, look, there. They fulfilled God's plan for them." That's not what happens. And when we start thinking about it, that's a disturbing place if we look at it from that aspect. Now, does God have a plan for you? Absolutely. You might want to know what that is and how it comes about and how it starts to work. We'll be right back. As we take a look into this, we have to keep in mind that sometimes some people say that while God's plan and God's will is that every man be saved. That's what you'll hear sometimes. Well, God didn't create man to falter to begin with and to fall away. And if you see that book behind me, Let the Answer Sink In, we start to look at things from a different perspective. Because initially, in a Christian based perspective, we see things as God created the world, then he created man, and then all of a sudden everything messed up. And now God's shifted his plan from wherever he was going into a perspective where he now is going to try to redeem man and give him a door to come back. Now, if that is the case, then God failed at plan A, and we know that didn't happen. And he had to change it up and go to plan B. That's not what took place. We really only understand our relationship with God is when we've lost it, like the prodigal son. The prodigal son went out there and he lost everything. Now he wanted to come back home and just be one of his father's servants. Well, we forget that also the other brother that was there with the father never understood his relationship with him. And a lot of people are in church day in and day out, year after year, year after year, and they'll be in there 40 years, but they have 1 year experience 40 times. And they do not understand the relationship. They'll tell you, yeah, they understand, but they don't understand the relationship. If they did, they would not go through the troubles and the problems and the issues that everyone else does. Why? Because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. What I believe on the inside is happening. Ask yourself this. What things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believing that you received them, you shall have them. Now, how many can really apply that? Or do we put it aside? Because that is a litmus test to tell where you are at. And anybody that starts to understand God should know what that means to them or have a meaning for it to themselves and be able to apply that on a continuous basis. God will give you the desires of your heart. The word desire means from sire. God is our sire. He put the desire in us. And the reason he gives us a desire is to achieve the plan. The plan is to get you away from where you're at. Now, see, the biggest problem is that we have something God put between us and the disconnection from him. And it's called enmity. And you'll hear me talk about this in a few videos. And that's what it's called. And enmity has a mind of its own. It is insidious the way it thinks. And it is inside and it's constantly controlling. It controls your finances. It controls your relationships. It controls your families. It controls your work environment. It controls so many things. It's why you start to see things the way they are right now. Now, back in the days of the Bible, they did not have all the different cultures and beliefs to fight off and to try to blend in or kind of coexist with. Here in the United States and other countries, we do. And it becomes very important that you know where the line is between you and them. Not in a religious stance, but in the terms of what you know and what they believe. And a lot of people, they have a belief. For example, when the Lord says, those that believe in me and the works that I do, they will do those works also. And greater works will they do because I go unto my Father. Well, because they can't see how that's going to happen, those works then become physical works of doing things. That's what that becomes. The key word in understanding that whole concept there, what he's talking about, is believe, right? Because if you do not believe causes you to go outside of your bubble. Now, I want you to see something in this sense. If you live in a certain state and you've lived there for a long time, most people live within 35 miles of where they were born. If you have never lived in another state, then consider the state and the city you live in your bubble. Sure, there's work to be done there. But even if you wanted to go to a different state, there's a part of you on the inside that fights it, whether it's for family, whether it's for this, or whether it's for that. And there is a conflict on the inside. And it hits you in your emotions. It's in your emotions. Sometimes it's in the logic of stability. Because enmity makes a very, very logical argument. And it uses your emotions to make that argument. Well, we can't move back into the spirit that we were in, even though Christ made a preparation for us by making the way of redemption and salvation and the sacrifice that he made. We can't move back into that if we don't start taking steps. Ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Right? Well, we don't do those things. We don't start moving after something. And you have to understand what's going on. There's a lot of people, when you get into, depending on the congregation, if it's small, sometimes you'll see you see more gifts that are applied, gift of hearing, seeing, things of that nature. And they're called gifts because you didn't know how you got it and you don't know how it's operating, although everyone has them. Now, you might not believe that, but you and I are exactly alike. We are exactly alike. And God didn't give this person this and this person that, just different, but he gave it to you in a sense so that we could see that they operate, but you all have them. We all have exactly the same tools. And it is a matter of a fact of how much spirit you are in or how much of the flesh your mind dwells in. It's where the mind dwells. Because as long as you believe that you are this fleshly being, then your fleshly being makes your spirit subject to it. And that's where we start to have a lot of problems. We start to see a lot of problems. We have problems just the same way as everyone else. Now, some might say, well, the word doesn't say that we wouldn't have problems. You wouldn't have problems like everyone else because you know what? Look, you'll know them by their fruit. You'll know them by their results. You'll know them by the things that are going on in their lives. When you get somebody like that, you'll see every year, one year after another, you'll see the way things change for them, the way things improve. And it's almost as if they live this life that is just like they're lucky. Everyone thinks they're lucky. I hear that all the time. Wow, you're so lucky. I'm not lucky. I am not lucky. I don't believe in luck. Luck is when opportunity meets preparedness. And opportunity is there all the time. Most of us cannot break the routine of where we are at. And it's a simple rule. Create or disintegrate. Just the same way as the fig tree that Christ cursed and it dried up and died, right? It didn't create figs. And it was an example to us. And some people might feel bad over the fig tree. It's an example to us. The fig tree falls down, it goes into the ground, and later on it comes up again as another fig tree. It's going to recycle itself. Everything recycles itself. But the thing for us is we're not going to recycle ourselves. We're going to live this life, and either we're going to be concerned with all the problems and the things around us and trying to survive and uncertainty, or we're going to start being certain about our relationship with God, our relationship, who we are, who he made us to be. And there's only one way that happens. There's only one way that this happens. You have to start finding something that you are, when God puts that desire in you, you have to get involved with that desire. And it's not going to be a religious desire. He doesn't always give you a religious desire. He does not. That's not what's going to happen. And most people think that's what that is. That God's going to give you something. He's going to bring you right back into church and in the pulpit, and you're going to be singing songs or preaching or something. That's what they think that God wants from them. But out there, There are lots of places where people need to see. Look, you're created in the image and the likeness of God with a purpose. So either one, you're bringing that to the surface, or you're dying with the music still in you. And like I said at the beginning, look there, they fulfilled God's plan for them. No, most people are dying with the music still in them. They were nice people, but there was nothing about them. There's atheists that are nice people. There's a thing that they call Minnesota nice. And it really is. They'll pull over on the side of the road and they'll help you. It doesn't mean they're even Christians. So to say that it's not that, it's the results that you're getting. It's the way things work for you differently than other people. It is beyond that. And that's not something that we teach in church. Now, here's what happens. God puts a desire inside of you. And he's putting the desire inside you in order to break the bubble of your belief. You have to go from where you believe into a new place. And you have to have belief to be able to do that. And you start to move into this new area. It might not happen. You don't know how it's going to happen. And that's how it works. You don't know how this is going to happen. You don't know how you're going to get there. But like he told Abraham, if you can see it, I'll give it to you. If you can see it, I'll give it to you. And if you can see it in your mind, you get the desire. If you see it in your mind, he'll give it to you. But you have to stay focused on that place, because there is a place. And you start to go ahead and start seeing it. Well, you start to see yourself there. And as that happens, you start to draw down ideas. If you tell yourself, yeah, how am I going to do that? Yeah, right. You'll stay in the same bubble. You will stay in the same bubble of life. You will not grow. You will not bear that fruit. It will not happen. You'll have the wheat and you'll have the tares. And the tares are not getting a result. The fruit, the wheat is getting a result. That's why it's a wheat. And so you get involved with that thing. And it's going to require, one, a decision. You don't know how to get there, but God does. And the more you hold to the idea that that is where you're going. And see, this is where we lose people. Because not everyone can do this. You're lucky. 2 to 3% is the people that can actually get this and do something with it. So narrow is the way, absolutely. And you start moving towards that, and you start to draw down more, and you start to draw down more, and then things start to open up, and then things start to happen, and you run into the right person, and you run in, and it's almost like it's like getting a deck of cards and pulling the ace of spade just every single time. You pull it out, and you get another deck, and you pull ace of spade, you put ace, and it's like that. It's like you can't believe the way it works, but it does work. It's almost like walking on water. You're taking a step, but there's something catches you, and you take another step, and something catches you, and that's the way it is. And there might be little areas where you get a little bit held up longer than normal, and it really has the only thing it has to do is with you. It is the way you're thinking. It is where your mind's at. The answers are already there. That's why we say God is all-knowing, he's all-powerful, and he's omnipresent. That means that all the power and all the knowledge is equally present in all places at the same time. That means out there and in you and in me. The problem is we don't get in tune with it. God is love. That is harmony on 3 levels. And we need to get ourselves in harmony with God. That's why we can't do the things that Christ said. That's why we have the trouble. So we make a decision that this here, I get that desire, this here I'm going to do. And I start to break away from those things. Now here you have to watch this very carefully. You have to watch this very carefully, because what happens is this. You set yourself up to do something. You're going to do this. You don't know how. But even if you did know how. I had a friend. And this friend, I don't know how you feel or feel about guns, but that doesn't matter. Here's the point. Here's the story. He bought a brand new Glock 9mm. And he was so excited about it, and okay. And he was going to go out this weekend to go shoot it and go try it out at the shooting range and take some lessons on how to use it. Okay. The next week I saw him and I said, so how did it go? He says, I didn't get to do it. All these things came up. And I says, watch. Every time you want to do it, you're going to set up to do it. And you're going to set the time and the place. Something is going to come up until you inside lose the desire to do that thing. And then you're going to have all the time in the world. And he laughed. And he said, well, we'll see. And 2 months later, I said, so have you gone out and shot your gun? And he says, no. Things just came coming up, and hey, how did you know that was going to happen? That was his reaction. That was his response to me. Because that's how it works. And it works on the small level. And it has a lot of levels. That is the way that works. And it works to keep you stuck in a place. That's what it does. It controls your finances. Like I said, you get extra money. You get extra money that you were unexpecting. You're just extra money. Something comes to take it and leaves you right in the same place yet again. You ever wonder how that works? You ever hear people say, I can't catch a break? That should be a wake-up call for all of us. How do we all, even atheists, wonder, how does that happen? How, that's impossible, but it happens. Yes, because it's always working to keep you stuck in the same place. And as long as you're stuck, as long as you want to do this and you want to do that, and something is always getting in the way, you will lose the desire. You will lose the desire of where you're going. You have to focus on the desire of what you want to the exclusion of everything else, and everything else will start to sort itself out. And you go through and you do not lose focus. And before you know it, you'll get idea and another idea and another idea. And those ideas will come together and they'll form a thought. And doors will open and you'll walk through them. Now you have to keep in mind that the cave you fear to enter has the treasure you seek. And fear is one of the biggest emotions that enmity, which is so insidious, will use to hold you back. The heart is deceivingly wicked above all things. That includes the devil. Who can know it? And God knows all this. This is why he gives you desire, to draw you out. Because it is by the desire. If the desire is stronger than the fear, you will stop making excuses and you will go after it. Otherwise, you'll get stuck making excuses. And you just shrug your shoulders and you'll stay right there. Now, here is behind me 2 books, Let the Answer Sink In, which should really help you get a different perspective. And it's very easy to understand. It's very easy to comprehend. I have people that are non-believers read this and get a different perspective. People that did not like Christians or didn't believe in that religion because of the things that they went through and they were judged when they were younger, learned this, and then all of a sudden a lot of that came off. So it's a very interesting read. Now, the other book is The Believer's Guide to Christ in You Manifested. And it really gets you going in an area where you need to start shedding off. It's things that we don't think about. It's things that it's right in front of us. And it does us no good if we say we know it, but we can't apply it. It has to be applied. Because you can't say that you know it unless you've applied it. Because knowing means you have the experience with it. And if you haven't got the results, then you don't know it. If you're sick and diseased and you don't have the healing, then you don't know it. And we have to start fooling ourselves and stop just reading things and reading passages and then just tossing them over the shoulder like, well, I don't. It's like when we were kids and we read a sentence and we didn't understand that word. And if the rest of the sentence didn't give us an idea of what that word actually meant, we just continued going. But from that point on, we're lost. We really, if you're having a conversation with somebody and they use a word that you don't understand, how many times do you stop them and say, I'm sorry, excuse me, what does that word mean? Most people don't do that. They just continue nodding from that point. And from that point on, they're just lost. They don't know what's going on. Don't be that person. Say, hey, what does that mean? Find out what that means. Find out how you apply it. When you're reading the Word of God, when you're reading a book like this, it's going to be very simple for you to understand. And as you start to apply these things, how often have you heard about enmity? How often from the pulpit, from a message, have you heard about enmity and how it affects your time, how it affects your money, how it dwells within you? You should watch the last video that I put up here, and it's called The Ark of the Covenant and You. And it is exactly about that. Anyways, hopefully you find this message well, and it gives you an idea that God's plan for you is completely outside of where you are at, and you have to be ready. You have to be ready to get involved with that desire. And you have to understand that you're going to make sacrifices. But the word sacrifice means giving up something of a lesser value for something of a greater value. And along the journey of where you're going, that desire, you're going to lose the things that are unlike God in your life. Even the ones that seem like God, that are religious. And you're going to gain real ones. You're going to gain a real relationship. You're going to go from being uncertain of what God's will is to certain of what God's will is. You're going to know, regardless of what the eyes and the ears see, you're going to know what's going to happen. It's going to be like, you know, the ending of the movie every single time. Every single time. And you just started watching and it just came out. Anyways, hope you like, share, follow, and subscribe if you haven't. And I will talk to you later. I got these 2 books. Be in the links. Thank you.